What's up, everybody? I hope you guys had a good 4th of July weekend, even though we're going to talk about some bummer stuff here. Off topic, but we went out to this lake, did a little fishing, and I was looking at this engineering, thinking about how today they're trying to teach kids that the boomers ruined it for everybody. Well, they started construction on this in May 1940, had to stop, go over and fight Dub Dub Deuce, and then came back and had it completed by 1948. That's about 100 yards high, probably 400 or 500 feet thick across the bottom, and about 2 miles long, making this big, beautiful lake that everybody enjoys until this day. And they didn't just do it here, they did it all across the country. None of these kids watch my channel, but we need to be teaching this to the younger generation. The problems we have today in this country are due to the financiers and not your grandparents. You guys have repeatedly proven to me that you have no idea what hard work is like they did. Anyway, absolutely horrible weekend down in Texas. This was just a river campground scene, exactly like what I was just showing you. I'm surrounded by miles and miles of the exact same terrain. Only I think they're a little more deserty there, which makes for really bad flash flooding. Sand doesn't absorb water and it reaches complete saturation very quickly. So I've seen these flash floods out in the desert and it's not even raining. It hasn't rained all day and a wall of water will start coming down with all kinds of debris on top of it because a big storm happened 50 miles up to the north. The water here rose 26 feet in 45 minutes, they're estimating, which is just insane. The video we're watching here was further downriver, I believe, during daylight, but this happened overnight in the Mystic Camp region, and nobody expects anything like this. You could see at the beginning of this video, it was about 30, 40 feet down to the water at the beginning, and we've got a bunch of jump cuts here, but this guy was probably here 45 minutes or an hour filming this, and by the end of it, it's over the bridge. If you're aware this is happening, then you can easily outwalk this up the hill. But the thing is by the time people woke up and realized this was going on, then the water had already encompassed everyone. If you've ever spent much time in a river, then, you know, even a foot of flowing water can really throw your balance off. Then when it's dark, you're in a campground that you're not familiar with. So now all the landmarks look different to you in the dark, plus the water. And this is a horrible tragedy here. Since I've lived here, I guess about the last 3 years, we've had, I think, 3 really freak hard rains where it only took, some of them as little as 30 minutes and everything was flooding. This is from last fall. But, during that, I'm sitting there thinking, man, if this would have continued for 3 hours, then this drainage gully would have turned into what I was just showing you. And this runs right through the middle of town, houses on each side of it. This runs right through my yard, and of course the basement flooded. So this all happens in 30 minutes to an hour of heavy, heavy rain. Look at Hurricane Helene last year that Google doesn't want you to know about. And it was centered right here, 1 p.m. Friday, right here, 1 p.m. Saturday, and then 1 a.m. Saturday right here. So that was about 36 hours of torrential downpours all in one spot. And now with the internet, it's the automatic reaction to say, well, they did it. They were steering this thing and that's why it parked in the same spot for 36 hours. I don't know. They very well could be, but I haven't heard anyone explain how they're doing it. I've heard speculation that they're using NEXRAD radars and pulsing it with it to steer it, but also radars track these things, so of course they would be bouncing signals off of it, keeping track of where the front is as it approaches. And I'm not here to argue whether that's the case or not. I'm just saying that every time something happens now, whether it's a quake, a fire, a flood, the internet's automatic reaction is they did it. There's nothing that happens by chance like it has all throughout history. One thing that's good to see here is federal emergency management isn't in here hindering progress. These are a bunch of locals out here doing exactly what I would do if this was one of the rivers around here, grabbing a chainsaw and going up there and helping out. That's what America is. I see these city comrades shet talking America all the time. They don't know what America is. Those people would be sitting there on their keyboards furiously typing away about the lack of government response because they're a bunch of little pinko pussies. Real men load up the truck and go freaking help out. I mean, I even saw people blaming this on Trump. And I mean, that really is just how despicable they are. A horrible tragedy, and all they can think of is supposedly scoring some political points. They're just one-trick monkeys. And this is how stupid that is. It's, hey, look, I've got some beautiful flowers blooming in my tree. Oh no, they fell off. Damn it, Trump. I'm not even defending the guy. They just act like now he's God and everything that happens was preordained by him before breakfast. Anyway, they have been running rain enhancement projects, aka weather mods, in this area, which it shouldn't be any surprise for anybody. I've shown how they used to pull licenses for $5 back in 1950s California. When Dubai flooded last year, it was admitted at first that they had been tinkering with things. I actually read the article from the scientists that said, yeah, we should have left that one alone. But if you look it up now, they say that no, there was no engineering involved. But I'd say that these rain enhancement projects are pretty standard in desert areas by this point. So I'm not surprised in the least to see that they have this project there. The question is, did they mess with this storm? Like I said, the internet's reaction to everything that's happened for the last 10 years is they did it. So sorry, you guys have cried wolf so many times that now, even though this is in that area, that doesn't actually mean that that's what happened. So I'm not just going to jump automatically to that conclusion. Sorry. I would say that they have very meticulous records of what they have and have not done, and that it will probably be under investigation after this. Because unlike how the internet makes this out to be, they don't just snap their fingers and it rains. First off, there has to be a front coming through with moisture in the air. They can't just invent moisture for it to fall. It has to already be there, but normally it would have passed over this area. But if they did mess with this, then they would have been sending planes up yesterday to seed it, and those flight logs exist somewhere. Here's what reports say about this. The trigger was a weak frontal boundary that stalled over the hill country, providing the lift necessary to ignite convective storms. Once initiated, these storms became quasi-stationary due to minimal upper level steering winds. As a result, thunderstorms dumped rainfall over the same areas for hours. So, as far as publicly available information goes, we know that they can trigger rain to fall that would have otherwise just been moisture that flowed over to another area, and then once it hit a cold front or something, then it would have fell. What's not known for sure is that they can stall an entire front from moving anywhere. Now, some people are going to say that HAARP can do that, or NEXRAD can do that. And theoretically, I guess it's possible. I would say if the storm is moving in this direction and you heat the atmosphere out in front of it, making a high pressure system, then it could stall that storm. But I would also think in this scenario, if you were to beam energy to a certain point in the atmosphere and heat things up, then you would have this circular high pressure system. Then when the storm hits that, you would see it split around it. And a lot of people would notice if something like that happened. I don't know that they'd be able to make a big force-filled wall out of it. And also, realistically speaking, do you guys understand how much energy it would take to heat up just 100-mile radius of atmosphere? My blue dot here is more like 300 or 400 miles. But I would say the amount of energy to heat up that circle, just 1 degree, is probably more energy than the US puts out in a year. I mean, seriously, since it's hot right now, we'll do the opposite. If everybody in America opened their doors and put their ACs on full blast, how long do you think it would take to cool off the atmosphere? Well, it'd take till next winter, because our air conditioners would never change a thing. Nature would. So I've heard all kinds of theories about this, but there are some practical limitations. I've heard people say that they can heat up the entire ionosphere. Well, okay, where's all that energy coming from? They don't have a reactor here on site, so I'm assuming they're probably getting hydroelectric or coal power. And you think that's producing enough energy to heat the entire ionosphere? We get solar flares that eject more energy than mankind will ever make. So much energy, the entire ionosphere glows different colors. And that doesn't even warm the lower atmosphere where storms are located. So while it's pretty much unquestionable that they can seed a cloud and make moisture fall that would otherwise flown off to somewhere else, I don't think they can make an entire storm stop moving. I mean, that's like saying, okay, make the wind stop blowing across America for an hour. Do you think we can somehow do that? I don't. But now, all of that being said, and everybody calling me a shill because I didn't automatically go to man made, this could have been man made. They may have triggered this, but I don't think they would have had any control over this stalling. So, did they seed this? Well, back to this report. Days before the storm, the National Weather Service issued flash flood watches for central Texas, highlighting the potential for localized heavy rainfall. However, the forecast used cautious language, emphasizing uncertainty and variability in storm placement. So they knew days ahead of time that this had potential for heavy rainfall. And if that's the case, then would they have seeded it? Well, believe it or not, this isn't all just made for nefarious purposes. This is usually for agricultural reasons, or you could possibly drop all of that rain in a particular watershed and fill back up a reservoir or something. Take notes, California. But I really doubt there's a whole team of people working on this just to flood out residential areas and harm innocent people. Now, Operation Popeye in Vietnam, yeah, they intentionally flooded areas. But I doubt you've got a bunch of Americans in America intentionally working on a project to hurt other Americans. I mean, one, this is one of the last places on Earth with any strategic value. If you were going to use this just to cause problems, then you would knock out the Mississippi River Bridge in Memphis or something like that, where then it takes a day to go around. Nobody is strategically targeting the Guadalupe River in rural Texas. So, knowing that this had the potential for heavy rainfall days in advance, I would assume the people that are doing these projects are smart enough to understand that they shouldn't mess with this one. But in Dubai, they did it there. Yet I would assume any professional in this field would use that as a case study of why not to do it. So I would think they'd have sense enough to leave this one alone, but you never know. You can see that people are already sending letters asking if they did or not. And if they did, they're probably going to get the book thrown at them, because you're not going to get too many people in law enforcement looking the other way when 20 teenage girls are missing. I think the last count I heard was 52 people altogether. But at this point, I don't know. And a lot of people get mad that I don't automatically go with, well, since it's there, then they had to have done it. Well, they could have, but I don't know for sure. They very well could have not. Just because they have this program, it doesn't mean they hit every storm front that comes through. But this is just the way the internet works, like I just showed about Lahaina the other day. As people come on, make big claims, do a mic drop, walk away, and all kinds of people just assume that that's the truth from now on. But when you go back and look at it 2 years after the fact, nothing lines up with what they say. And unlike some people, I'm perfectly fine with saying, I don't know right now. I'm waiting on more information, and then I'll tell you what I think. So I'll just leave it at that for now. Static out.